Welcome, everybody, to yet another goddamn horror podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am Ryan Danley, coming to you from Portland, fucking Oregon. You know, big time Portland, Oregon. My co-host Jonas Barnes lives in Bushwick, Brooklyn, New York. What's going on with that, Jonas?
It's going good, man. Always loving Bushwick. We actually had an apartment building 2 doors down from us catch on fire like last week, and that was how I woke up. My roommate Freddie walked in and was like, "Hey, are you awake? The fucking building is on fire 2 doors down." I'm like, "Well, I am fully awake now. Thank you." Yeah, we had like 9 fucking fire trucks outside of our building, and I just took a picture of it and sent it to my boss and was like, "I'm going to be late." Like she was just like, you know what? You don't even have to come in. It's cool.
I would have said, why don't you go ahead and wake me back up when it's one apartment? Right. You know what I mean? Like because like 2 apartments, I think I'm good. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that did happen 10 minutes later. So
okay.
Like, am I gonna have to pack the cat up and go out onto the street?
That's 10 minutes more sleep you could have.
Oh man,
you know what I mean?
I wanted that sleep. I wanted that sleep.
Exactly.
It's good now though. Everything's cool now.
Hey,
that
Jonas,
apartment building is gutted and we're good.
Cool. Jonas or Graham, how's the other part of Brooklyn? How many miles apart? How many miles is apart? It's like, so you are what, southeast of Bushwick, right?
Southwest.
Southwest.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I
like going to Flatbush on the subway is the best because all you have to do is look for anything going super south, just like Coney Island.
Yeah.
Anything like if you're heading off the fucking into the ocean, you'll fly through Flatbush first.
Yeah.
No, it's been pretty rad. I actually it was my birthday and Valentine's Day recently, so for my birthday, my wife took me to a cat cafe and it had a private kitten party. And all the money goes to like donates to, it's like a shelter too. It's just a fancy shelter, but like you get to go. So I played with 2 kittens for an hour and it was one of the greatest birthdays I've ever had.
I'm so jealous of that birthday.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And then for Valentine's Day, instead of, we did the Super Bowl because I'm a babysitter. Valentine's Day is like my biggest day. So we do our Valentine's Day before. So we did it on the Super Bowl and we got our hair done by Adrian at Give Your Hair a Kiss. Big fans of her. So she did like a Valentine's Day couples thing and we hung out and ate pizza and got weird colors done in our heads.
Adrian's the co-host of yet another awesome podcast called the Alien Murder Sex Podcast.
It's true. It's very good.
Her and friend of the show, Lauren Petrie.
But also, I'm super excited about today because I was talking to my friend Ian a while ago and he was like, hey, you should check out this dude, Bob Anger. He's a pro wrestler and a comic book artist, and he's fucking rad. He said he's the best, all caps, and he said I should quote him on that. So today we have Andy Belanger. Is that how you say it, or Belanger?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Anyway, well, Andy, aka Bob Anger. How you doing, Bob?
I'm good. How are you guys? What's up? Yeah,
I'm good, man.
Thanks. If Ian's listening or he's gonna listen, thanks, Ian.
I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very excited. You you do a lot of things that I'm super interested in. Kind of like my top three, maybe, which is pro wrestling, horror, and comic books.
Yeah.
And so let's start with. I guess we'll just jump right into the wrestling. I want to hear about the wrestling.
Sure. Before we get into wrestling, there's a lot of talk about Brooklyn. Have you or any of you guys hung out? I don't know if it's there anymore, but there used to be a bar in Greenpoint called the Palace, and all they had on the jukebox was basically Iron Maiden, and it was these 2 big dudes with like baseball hats and long black hair. They were brothers, and they ran the bar. And every time I came down for NYCC for the Comic-Con, I would stay with what my old editor from DC, and she lived like right around the corner from the Palace, and like it had to be the cheapest beers ever, but nothing but Iron Maiden like That was it.
That's so awesome.
It was like one of the old Polish bars. Like it was super old and
Yeah.
wood on the inside. It was. I don't know if it's there anymore.
I don't know if
I
it's
hope
there
it
anymore.
is.
I know exactly what bar you're talking about because like
Yeah.
I've been sober a long time, but I used to do a lot more. And that was definitely a bar that I've been to because Greenpoint
Yeah.
used to be one of my haunts. And that's for sure a place that I had gone to. I don't know if it's there anymore either, but
I think I heard it's gone now. Actually,
at least 6 or 7 years ago it was still there. So
yeah. I spent a good decade there.
yeah,
Every
that place
time I
was
came
awesome.
to New York.
So you came here. Where are you originally from?
I'm from a town just about an hour west of Toronto,
So
called
you're Canadian.
Waterloo.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but then I was living downtown Toronto, right near the market, in Little Italy for another decade and a half. And in 2012, I moved to Montreal, and Montreal just took me in and was like, "We love you." And to segue into wrestling, Ontario at that time, I think you needed a special license and insurance to run a wrestling show or a full contact sport event. You needed special insurance, and like the wrestlers just don't make that much money, so there weren't
Yeah.
a lot of events. So my entire time during Toronto, I never went to a wrestling event. I didn't care about wrestling. I hadn't even really watched. I was like addicted to wrestling as a kid in high school, but like during my Toronto years, that was like my seminal years making comics, and that's always what I wanted to do. So wrestling kind of faded away until I moved to Montreal, and there's literally wrestling everywhere. It's as big as hockey. There's like 20 feds within 100 miles. Like it is humongous like here.
The town Hearts built or something.
Yeah. So if you're into WWE right now, the fed that I'm a part of, like it's like my fed. Like I've taught at the schools. I was one of the first student at their schools. I went to all their shows when I first moved here, just to get loaded and watch wrestling and go crazy and yell at wrestlers. And I made friends with them. I used to, for a while, I was sponsored by Zubaz as a comic book artist. I just like on Twitter one day was like, I need to be sponsored by Zubaz, and tag them. And they were like, check me out. And they're like, yeah, okay. So for a few years, I was just sponsored by Zubaz, and I was giving it out to all the wrestlers, and I was doing their merch and gig posters and stuff. And then when they IWS started a school, I was one of the first guys in the school and just got addicted to it. And I started late. I think I was like 36 or 37 when I started wrestling.
Yeah, that seems pretty late, but yeah, that's so rad.
I like to hear that though, because we had what's it, Bob Redbeard? Was it? Is it Bob Redbeard?
Yeah, it was Eric Redbeard.
Eric Redbeard. We had Eric Redbeard on, and I asked him if I could still be a professional wrestler, because I want to be a luchador. That's my and he said I was too old. So I like to hear about he's I don't
know, man. DDP started.
DDP was 37.
Yeah, I was gonna say he started when he was 37
when he started.
Yeah, and he's a fucking Hall of Famer now.
Yeah, he was like a bouncer at a bar that they went to, I think, something like that. Yeah.
What's that?
Ryan, you could still pull it off, man. You could still.
People will definitely hire you to be a bouncer.
Right. I mean, well, that's how I make extra money. I just stand in front of bars I don't know and just and just sit there with my arms crossed and ask for cover charges. But it's you can usually get $50-$60 before they call the cops. But it's yeah. So, but I think even in being a luchador, you could probably even fuck with it a little later. You know what I mean? Like, you don't like.
I don't know.
You gotta start doing flips and shit.
No. You could probably pull off some WWE style wrestling, but that luchador business, I do some luchador stuff.
Right.
In my act, and some of the hard stuff. Like, so during COVID, we had Speedball Mike Bailey, who is now like arguably one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's all over. He's on Impact. He's been an Impact champion. He's wrestled just about every wrestler. He's about to wrestle Kota Ibushi.
Oh wow!
Like the guy's on fire in the U.S. and he had a ban from going back and forth over the border. They banned him for 5 years during his prime. So during COVID, he right before COVID, he'd been wrestling in Japan, and Japan basically like turned off the faucet of traveling back and forth for wrestling.
Yep.
So he ended up kind of stuck in Quebec, and I guess it would be like, you know, for like a bunch of hours on Wednesday afternoon, I would go down with him, and we were in the same bubble, and he would just be, you know, we would just train our asses off. So like the asses he's kicking right now in you know, the US on TV, this face was the one getting kicked for 2.5 years to keep him like sharp. And
I have a wrestling and horror question to kind of blend here. Did you ever fuck with Blackcraft Wrestling?
No,
That was one that I was really like. I was rooting for that Fed to be able to stick around. You know, unfortunately, I don't know what actually happened with them. I know there's all sorts of shit, but that was one that I was really hoping was going to stick around, because what they did to blend like horror as an aesthetic with professional wrestling was fucking dope. They had Doug Bradley playing the priest. Like,
so
dude,
awesome.
Yeah, like how can you fuck that up? You got Pinhead as your main antagonist.
Yeah,
you know,
that's pretty cool.
Wrestling is it's done for the love. It's not done for the money.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I was part of a Fed called I've been on interspecies wrestling a few times.
Shit, yeah.
My whole wrestling character, I come out with like shoulder pads covered in like Road Warriors. I have Road Warrior shoulder pads covered in fur.
Nice.
And like I've got a mask and all the whole deal. So my sort of like wrestling name is Bob, like the animal Bob Anger. So I'm in a tag team right now called the Sexy Beasts with Sexy Eddie. And Sexy Eddie's kind of a legend. My tag team partner is like a super legend. So it's a lot of fun. His whole shtick is he's like a male stripper, and my whole thing is I'm like, I don't know, his Chewbacca.
Part animal.
His Chewbacca. That's
he's like
great.
sexy Han Solo, and I'm like
who do you think's pulled off horror in wrestling well, besides Undertaker? And I'm not even sure he did it that well.
I mean, sometimes
there's been a lot. There's been a lot. Pain is pretty horror, right? Papa Shango was like, or there's another guy that eats worms. What's his name again?
The Boogeyman.
Boogeyman was great. And then what's the new guy? The Fiend.
Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt.
He's got a whole horror thing going on.
Yeah, he's pretty. He's the only thing that kept me tied to WWE. And then when they fired him, I was like, well, I'm completely done with this. And then once Vince was out of creative, Hunter's kind of got it back on track. And there's some good stories on there right now. But
there's a couple of people I want to I could say that have horror influences in wrestling, like Killer Cross / Karrion Kross. He's had that whole like psychotic like killer type of thing going on for quite a while. You've got people like Rosemary and Sue Young and like
Abaddon.
Yeah, and you got Abaddon. And when that's the thing that's interesting about wrestling when you talk about wrestling and horror, because when they do mix them, they usually do it really well. Like there's been very few times I can think of where somebody tried to do horror and it was a flop. When it comes to wrestling,
who's the black mask guy? I'm blanking on his name all of a sudden. NXT champion forever.
Had a black
Andrade.
Yeah.
Who?
Idolo Andrade?
No, not Andrade. He's not Mexican. He's like from Northern. He's got that spinning kick.
Aleister Black.
Aleister Black.
There we go.
Yes.
Malachi.
That's a very
Malachi
good.
Black. Yeah, Malachi Black got a whole black metal horror thing going on.
Yeah, 1,000%. His entire fucking entrance was
the
him
House
rising
of
out of the
Black.
casket.
He's like basically huge, like the Abbott of wrestling right now.
Yeah. So that is an interesting thing about when you mix horror and wrestling, because it usually works well, and you can also pull off some pretty cool shit. And like, there's one dude that he got completely fucked by WWE, but now he does his own thing and he's insane, and that's Sin Bodhi. Or used to be when he was in WWE for literally one match. His name was Kazarni, which was ridiculous.
Oh, that's right.
But as Sin Bodhi, he's insane. Like his shit is like full horror. And again, it's something that I think it lends itself well to horror. Like if you can get a horror-ish character, you're fucking made, man. Like you do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I always love it. I always loved horror characters. Yeah, Undertaker's obviously like, you know, in my top 3. And like I saw him a bunch as a kid. Like I was always addicted to the Undertaker. Like he was always like the best. He was always the coolest.
I think the coolest is Ricky the Steamboat Dragon, but that's just me.
Oh man, so I was in a green room in St. Louis. I think it was St. Louis. I was in a green room for Comic-Con, and I was in the bathroom taking a whiz. When I turned around and was washing my hands, I was standing beside Batista.
Oh shit!
Oh wow!
Before he got humongous as an actor, like he was already an actor. He'd already been Drax once, but he was in there, and like I just started talking to him about wrestling, and like I was like, hey, I work for these comic companies, whatever. I just wanted to say hi. I also, I'm a pro wrestler up in Montreal, like indie wrestler. And he was like, oh man, you're still wrestling. And I was like, oh, I got into it late. And he was like, what's your favorite move? And I was like, telling guys no. And he was like, that's my favorite move. And then I basically sat and talked with him for a while. And while we were talking, over walks Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And I was just like losing my shit.
Wow,
that's really cool.
Ricky was like, obviously, so my favorite match of all time is that WrestleMania 3 match with Macho and Ricky. I think it's the best match almost ever. And I watch it all the time. And, watching, old Ricky walk up to Batista and say hi to us, I was just like, and he's not a tall guy.
No,
I expected him to be taller. He was pretty short. And I was just kind of like, and Batista is about the same height as me, but he's like, and I'm not a small guy by any means, but like he looks like me if you took like another me and just glued it on the front. Right? Like he's got to weigh 280 or something. Like, because I'm 220 and like just the size width difference. I was like, he's like fucking 2 of me. It was crazy.
I used to meet wrestlers when I was younger all the time for some reason. But like I met Haystack, Jim Calhoun, and Piper and stuff like that. But a few years ago, I was outside the Barclays Center right before a Raw, just like watching people. It was like summer afternoon. I was just watching everybody come in, and I saw like Jerry the King like shuffle over from a taxi and stuff, and then and a bunch of people came through. And Mick Foley was nice. Randy Orton was kind of a dick to everybody.
I've been on panels with both those guys, Jerry the King Lawler and Mick Foley. Mick Foley's tall. I didn't expect him to be tall.
And like, Batista was the one who like I wasn't really like I was like I don't know how nice Batista is at all. He's sort of like he was kind of a mystery, and he always kind of seemed to come off like a dick. But that was mostly his character, and he was by far the nicest dude. Stopped to every single person and talked to every fan and like signed shit. Whereas like even Mick Foley would sign like one thing and keep going, and Randy was like "fuck you fans" and kept going.
Well, he's a bad guy.
Got to be the dick.
To this day,
it was so
Ric
cool.
To this day, Ric Flair still does that to me.
I'm
in the green room at the bar at the hotel. I've tried to like hang out and introduce myself to Ric Flair. I think like 12 times, and every time he's just like, hit the bricks, kid."
Just like woos in your face and you have to leave. Like
that's insane.
But hanging out with Batista and Ricky's, I'm not even like a wrestling person, and I would be. I mean, like as a kid, I always liked Ricky Steamboat Dragon because he wasn't a big guy, but like he was an ass kicker. You know what I mean? And I kind of liked that about him. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like everybody like. So here, if you want to know how old I am and what kind of my deal is, like I quit watching when the Ultimate Warrior got popular because I just didn't like it. It was just dumb. And so but
it's a good
like,
time to quit actually.
Ricky Ricky was always just cool. I liked him and Junkyard Dog. Those were my wrestling here.
Yeah, I mean that's the stuff that I grew up on and I freaked out over, and I think I was sort of out of like that time period when I was in Toronto. I got out after the Attitude Era. When it went into the Cena era, I don't think I watched any of WWE in the Cena era.
It was very boring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I started watching again in like 2013, something like that.
When Punk came back, honestly, like right before he came back too, things were getting a little interesting. And then Punk came back and kind of blew the place apart and made it exciting again. Then they were bringing in all the indie guys, and NXT was blowing up. I was like, wrestling is amazing, and WWE is doing a great job. And then everything went to shit. And then AEW popped up. But before we move on to comic book stuff, I just want real quick, who is like your favorite wrestler that you've wrestled from like your childhood, like hero, and then like a newer wrestler?
My God, my all-time favorite wrestler is pretty easily Randy Macho Man Savage. Just total package. If I watch his promos all the time just to make me happy.
Yeah,
Sure.
Like if there's a Macho Man Savage promo, I'm just a happy guy. I obviously love Taker. I love Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I love Piper. I love Jake the Snake. I've got to hang out with Jake the Snake. He came to the school once.
That's cool.
Yeah, like Undertaker. All those guys I like super love. I'm completely obsessed with Jushin Thunder Liger from Japan.
Oh yeah.
I got like during the time period where Speedball was like my trainer, I got completely hooked and obsessed with Japanese wrestling. So I'm like a diehard New Japan guy right now. I've watched it for like the last 4 years, almost the whole thing. Yeah, Wrestle Kingdom is like the dopest thing ever. And I want to give a shout out to Andrew Shane Hawk, who has been like my trainer since the beginning, and you would know him as Daddy Magic on AEW. He was my trainer. Guys that I've wrestled, my best match I think was probably against Evil Uno on AEW.
Oh, sweet.
I had a really great match in a heavy metal festival. So we have a heavy metal festival up here in Montreal called Heavy Montreal, and IWS, my Fed that was started by Manny, Green Phantom, and my tag team partner Sexy Eddie. We would run wrestling between like the bands and stuff, and I had this. I won the first year they had a belt. I won the belt. I was like the champion, inaugural Heavy Montreal champion of the festival. And in that show, I faced Evil Uno, and it was just top down, like fun. Like
that's super
like
cool.
In the match, when you're having a good match, you can feel it, like and you're having fun. Like everything's super cool, and you're having a great time. And that had to be one of my favorite matches, like that I've had. New guys, Speedball, my trainer is kicking ass, and Josh Alexander, Impact champion. So I was supposed to face Josh right as COVID hit, and everything got canceled. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I hadn't started training with Speedball, and he would have wiped the floor with my ass, just kicked my ass up and down. Like I could have an interesting match with him now after a few years training with Speedball, but like I was supposed to face him before that, and it would have been ugly. Like
you got saved.
He would have just beat the crap out of me.
So can I ask like a naive wrestler question?
Yeah,
what constitutes like a good match? Like, what are the things that, like, I can understand, like, you feel like you performed well and you did that.
That's a good question.
And when you say people like they could wipe the floor with you, I know some of it's scripted, some of it's not. How does that play out? Like, not to be in such a lame interview question, but like how does that like
that's a good question. That's a legit good question.
How does that like all roll out? You know what I mean?
Okay, well, I'm gonna like blow your mind here.
Okay.
So as soon as I started was working with Speedball, I realized in the way that he was breaking down a wrestling match, right? You have your entrances where you come in and look cool. Mm-hmm. Then you have the shine where the good guy gets over on the bad guy and looks dope. And then you have the cutoff where, the good guy messes up and the bad guy cheats him and gets over on him. Then you have the heat where the bad guy is just beating him up, but bringing the energy down, right? The bad guy's job is to bring the energy down. He'll be doing holds, that kind of stuff. You know, like yelling at the audience, whatever, until you get to your Hulk Hogan, like some move where you get over on him real quickly, so he's stunned, and then you get into your like Hulk Hogan comeback. You know, and then you get the 3 punches, you get the kick, and then the leg drop. You do those moves, and then after that, you go to give him your finisher. He gets out, and then you go into a round of falsies, and then maybe a double down where you're both down, and then you get up and do a strike fest into your finish, whatever the finish is, and you know the booker will tell you who he wants to win. Right. So even whether you're a good guy or bad guy, you know, you still have this finisher. But if you're a good guy, you're going to hit him with your finisher, and he cheats you and rolls you up, or you know, his manager comes in and smashes you in the face or whatever. Right. Once I realized it's Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Right. Gotcha.
Totally. Star Wars.
Totally. No,
script writing 101 to a T. It's Joseph Campbell's like hero's journey. And I was like, totally. I went from struggling to remember all those moves to all of a sudden, I could go for, you know, half hour. Sure. No problem, because I realized it's part of a story structure. Right. And it became super easy. And I was like, oh man. So once you have I have a playbook, right? And my playbook will have, you know, whether I'm a good guy or bad guy, my shine, heat, cutoffs, all the rest of it. And they're my story parts, and I practice them all the time. So I know them cold. So once I go into, you know, the arena for the day, you know, you have a few hours to talk to your buddy to be like, that you're going to face, and you'll be like, okay, these are my moves, and he knows his moves. So you're going to go back and forth and run your spots in that match. And what makes it good is if you both know your stuff cold, and you've worked enough that you're going to remember his, the wrestling kind of isn't important, and your characters start to shine through, and then you get to work the crowd. And then you're 100% working the crowd. You already know you're going to have a good, you're already having a good match because no one's fucking up, and you're just running your spots that your body kind of just remembers. It's like typing. You know what I mean? When you're on a keyboard, you know how to type. It's like your body just remembers all the moves cold. You have to just make sure he remembers. But if he's good, he will. And then all of a sudden you're having fun, and that's when I'll start picking people out of the crowd. You know, I'll start doing goofy stuff, or really start working my character. And once you start really working your character, that's when the shoot drops, something changes in your matches, and all of a sudden you're having a real good time. It's really fun.
Cool. I really appreciate that breakdown of it, and it's really cool. And as a writer myself, that makes complete sense. And I think that even you can see that in, I mean, what's happening with what you're doing, they also do in movie fight scenes, which is the good guy wins for a while, bad guy starts to win. You know what I mean? There has to be a delved out amount of energy towards each person, so it doesn't just look stupid. You know what I mean? I have
to say, this is one of the most confusing things to me is how does the Rock not know how to do this in his movies? I know he has a contract where he can't lose a fight, but how does he not know that you're supposed to follow this formula in a fight? Right. Even when you go back to the 80s and you look at Arnold movies, Arnold Schwarzenegger gets his ass handed to him in every movie he's ever in, to the point he's on Terminator 2. He's missing an arm. He's been stabbed through the chest. His face is blown off.
Right.
The Rock just walks in a room and breathes, and everyone's like, "Ooh," and you're like, dead. "Yeah, dude, that's why your movies suck."
The last time The Rock got his ass kicked in a movie was Doom, and that was arguably his worst movie. So it's just I don't know. Maybe that's what happened. They're like, "Oh fuck, Doom tanked. We have to have The Rock win every time now." Fuck.
Right. Was he a good wrestler?
Yeah, he was
not technically a wrestler, but he was an amazing character.
Amazing.
Technically, he was Hogan and Stone Cold and stuff. Who
he had a
were
handful
over
of
the
moves
top, incredible characters. I'm not a Hogan fan, but I was a giant Steve Austin fan. And they weren't great wrestlers. They weren't doing flip-de-doos and shit, but they could sell what they did perfectly. And
Oh,
that's all it really. Yeah.
If you watch like a Stone Cold Steve Austin match and a Rock match, you're actually only going to see about 10 moves total, but they're going to pull off those moves in a way that makes you believe what you're watching. And like Stone Cold and the Rock can throw together a 45-minute match with very few actual wrestling moves, and like you'll be hooked the entire time because they're good at what they do. Whereas you can see somebody from, like New Japan pull off a 10-minute match that has 150 fucking moves just because they know what they're doing so well, and
it's different styles all over the place.
The Rock was never a guy that was like, he was never going out there to try to hit the 100 moves in a match thing. Like I honestly think his entire move set was maybe 10 moves. I mean,
WWE we're building superstars out of wrestling. Where like everywhere else is building wrestlers.
One of the Rock's finishing moves, Ryan, was a move called the People's Elbow. And if you watch him do it, it is the worst. The worst. Like, you think Hulk Hogan's fucking leg drop is a bad finishing move? The People's Elbow is the worst finishing move probably of all time. And when
he's still
what was Cena's out of it? Cena's was the exact same thing as the Rock.
The fucking
was the exact same thing. He ran back and forth, and then he dropped a punch on you, but he would never hit you. He's hitting like the mat by your head.
And the Rock's People's Elbow thing, like I think he hits you in the shoulder, kind of, but like when he does it,
he just lays down hard next to you.
And he does like a fucking dance before he does it, and then the whole arena comes. Like it's crazy as shit. But it's the worst move ever, and everybody's like, "The Rock's the best wrestler ever." It's like, all right, fucking calm down with that. He's probably one of the best.
And I think one of the most beautiful moves ever is Goldust's finisher. He had a few names like Final Cut, or like the way he would turn that and hold it midair and then drop it. It was one of the most beautiful finishers I've ever seen. And he never got the credit that he did for that move. Never. It was the most beautiful thing.
Dustin Rose is one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Ryan Goldust had another move that was called the Shattered Dreams, where he would put you in the corner and then he would just punch you right in the balls,
like kick you.
Like he would run up and he would punt like it was an NFL kicker. And
it was great.
Never won a match with that move one time. That would end every match. Like every single match, that would end it. Nope, he never won with it.
For me, the matches that I'm really hooked on is I watch like Tiger Mask in Japan against Dynamite Kid. Mm-hmm. Like those matches are crazy, and the other ones I watch are Jushin Thunder Liger versus Owen Hart. Like those matches are like the craziest, most insane wrestling. Like that's the stuff that I watch where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to try that. I know I can't do that, but I'll try it.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Tag team wrestling is my favorite. I rewatched the mostly the FTR and DIY shit. That arc they told with Gargano and Tommaso was just one of the best storytelling I've seen, and it was one of the best things about NXT. But anyway, let's move on from wrestling and get to comic books.
Yeah.
Ryan will wake up a little.
I can speak. I can actually speak to that.
Yeah.
I've been. I was like kind of like a Wayne Gretzky guy when it came to comics. I've been doing it since I was 5 or 6, and it was something from the time I was 5 and 6. I was like, it never changed in my life. I was like, I am going to be a famous comic artist when I grow up, and I just like did not deviate. And I was hungry and fierce. And it came from like when my dad split up with my mom, he would bring me to this like secondhand bookstore in the town I grew up in. And he was looking for marketing books. And this is pre-Bag and Board. And they had this wall, just this freaking wall the size of the whole store that was nothing but comics. And you only saw the paper side. And the guy smoked, so they were yellow. So it was a giant yellow wall. And I would be there for 2 hours before the movie would start, right? He'd pick me up after school. I'd have to be there for 2 hours while he looked for books. And then we would go to like get something to eat and go to a movie, right? And that would happen like once every 2 weeks or whatever. And I go to that store and I got just like hooked on sitting there looking at comics. And it would be, and my comics were all like you're talking about horror. My comics were all horror comics when I was a kid. EC horror comics, Creature Commandos. I know they're coming out with a Creature Commandos comic or a cartoon. It looks nothing like the comics did. The comics were gnarly. And it was always like Creature Commandos are basically like the Universal monsters, but fighting Nazis. And it was
so rad.
a dope ass comic. Yeah. And then I got hooked on like Buscema Frankenstein and Tomb of Dracula. And
Hell yeah.
basically all the creepies and eerie magazines and, you know, like the Savage Sword of Conan magazines. That was my jam. And, you know, EC horror comics, you know, Jack Davis stuff, all of my early work. So my first comic book gig was for Wildstorm after they had gotten bought out by DC. And they had the New Line Cinema line of books. And my first gig ever was doing Friday the 13th.
Hell yeah.
And I did it in a real Jack Davis style from EC. And it had like dot patterns and stuff. And like I was doing dot pattern stuff before anyone was really trying to do that retro thing. I was like, this has had to be like 2006. I was doing hard retro EC style comics, you know, 4-color, whatever. And it did really well. You know, some people, you know, they were like, oh, it's so cartoony. I'm like, does anyone know about horror comics?
Yeah, right. Like that's the, like, you know, it's funny. It's funny because we actually haven't had a lot of like we've had a bunch of comic writers on, but we haven't had a lot of comic artists on. So it's kind of fun to meet you. But we did have Skinner on. Are you familiar with Skinner?
Skinner's one of my best buds.
Yeah, we had.
I helped him run his Kickstarter.
Oh, that's awesome! but we had Skinner on, and so when like we didn't really bring this up in the interview, but I mean Skinner is clearly influenced by EC Comics. You know what I mean? Same sort of vibe. So it's actually like it's actually like really cool to. He's one.
I love him so much,
so much, and I'm not like trying to diminish and say it's just EC Comics stuff because clearly he's got his own vibe because he mixes.
If he watches this, Skinner, I love you.
Yeah,
we all do.
Yeah, he's a big supporter, and
he's a homie now, man.
Yeah,
he's one of those dudes that became like actually like a friend.
And his skin crawl books are great. So like anybody with that EC influence, it's just really cool to like to have you both to have that on here because like. You know, I'm a comic book kid. I had a lot of horror comics as a kid. I did fall into the. I mean, I liked X-Men and X Factor and all that.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me
I mean,
too.
like, you know, I had all those original, the original Punisher shit and all that. So, you know, and
so check this. I was just in San Francisco, and I don't know if you're into this, but like the early Punisher war journals that were done by Jim Lee. They were written by Carl Potts, and he was a big time editor at Marvel, and he's the guy that got Jim Lee his job. He brought Jim Lee into Marvel. And he was doing all his layouts for that comic. I ended up hanging out with Carl Potts that whole weekend.
Super
and
cool.
He signed my issue of Punisher War Journal #5. And then and then Jim was sitting next to me, so I got Jim to sign it too. I haven't had a comic signed by a creator in like 20 years.
You're right.
Like once you're in the biz, you just don't care. You know what I mean?
Well,
but this was the first time I was like nerding out hard.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard because it's like I've heard that like certain people have asked, like certain other baseball players have asked for like Derek Jeter's autograph. Like, you know what I mean? Like playing the game with him, there is a time for it. You know what I mean? And like, especially with that shit, because like, I think that was like a comic book revolution during that time period. I think, I mean, I was always more of an X Factor person more than X-Men. I don't know, but I really felt like that era of time between the Punisher and the Mutant comics and all that really like sort of like pumped life into the whole thing. And I think that we owe. I mean, you can make an argument that Wolverine sort of like. I don't know, like maybe like I don't want to say saved comics, but maybe I don't know. Like what it's like, you know what I mean? Like the popularity
he helped
of that
make them popular.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, so yeah, so I know what you mean, and it was called the Haunted Bookstore in my town, and I would ride my skateboard down there, and there was just he just had a couple boxes of used comics, and I would just go through them, and I still have so many of those comics. I bought that first run of the Spider Women comics, which is actually a really great run, and
Oh yeah.
and things like that. So yeah, I'm still a really big comic book person. So
There
I
was
can.
a Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
There is a store in Toronto called Dragon Lady that was in Little Italy that was right around the corner from my place. And across the street from him was a director buddy that I used to work for named Bruce McDonald, who directed Hardcore Logo. I used to do all his storyboards and read scripts and, do that stuff. And across the street was Dragon Lady. And Dragon Lady was kind of a famous store because the guy who ran it had this like insane collection of magazines. So it was all old magazines, but the back was comics. And he had from that era just in the basement boxes and boxes and boxes of EC and boxes and boxes and boxes of Creepy. Like he was big into that when it was fresh and just had tons of it. Like, and it had to be like one of the only stores where you could go and buy the issues of
Sure.
like EC horror comics. Like it was, I've never seen it, and I would go buck wild in there until the place closed down.
Yeah.
But recently, there's a place in Montreal we just found called Comic Hunter, and it's way past the 40 on Saint Laurent, and it's a goddamn warehouse, and half the store is just like long boxes that they haven't even put in a system. There's like 6,000 boxes, so basically they just went, oh, this box we'll just put Batman's in, so it's got bees. So they're just a letter. So like here's 50 long boxes with just X on it. So when I went in like recently, because like we're having a nostalgia kick in the studio where we just want to buy our old comics again, I'd be like, hey, I'm looking for Uncanny X-Men, sort of like Jim Lee, John Romita Jr. and Silvestri era. He's like, we have multiple runs of all of that. Just go back there. And it's like Christmas, dude. Like I'm back there like freaking out, phoning friends, like just losing my shit back there, like going through that old stuff. And it reignited like my love of
I love that.
comics.
I'm glad
When
there's still stores like that of any
oh
kind,
god, yeah.
Music
Yeah, like
stores are
God
still
bless.
so
Like
fucking great. And
kids don't have
yeah.
that today, man, where they don't know. The internet is not a place where you find cool shit because you don't know what to look for. It was the store experience. It was like on a Saturday, you'd wake up, you would go to the comic store, you would go to the magazine store to get Fangoria and
Fangoria was a big
Juxtapose.
one for me.
And yeah, I was a big Fangoria guy. When I got first like a little article in Fangoria about my comics, I have it somewhere. Like shit my pants. Like
Sure.
that was
That's so
that
rad.
was like a big thing for me. And then you go from the magazine store to the record store, and you knew to buy shit because it'd be on the walls or it'd be in the stuff you look for and in the hunting for it and seeing like the cover art for stuff. That's where your love of all this stuff originates. And just like sitting on the computer, looking at another Tumblr artist that's trying to do Dragon Ball, you're like, give me a break, man. Like
right. And I kind of like hate being that guy because like listen, maybe I would have had a better like experience if I didn't have to like hunt through the back of Maximum Rock and Roll to find records I like. Maybe I would have had to like, and I kind of hate being like a boomer. Like you guys aren't even working for it these days. You don't know, but there is something about like still to this day walking into a comic book store. And I mean, like, and I'm just going to be real honest. I love buying them more than I like reading. Like I like owning them, and I still read comic books all the time, but like I go in there and I just want to buy them, and I just want to. There's still that part of me that walks into those stores, and whether it's a comic book store, whether it's a record store, whether it's anywhere that has good, like, well, probably comic book and record stores. Like it's just like I walk in there and I just like I want this shit, and and I do think that something has been lost in. Like I said, I am glad media is available for people. I really am, because there's probably a lot of people who weren't as fortunate enough to like live in areas that had access,
and they're
to that.
finding other people that have the similar interests, which is
Exactly.
cool.
And maybe if I would have had a Comic-Con as a kid, I probably would have maybe like done something with my life. But it is what it is. But yeah,
There is. I fully agree with that whole like the first part, but yeah, it's I think it honestly, a lot of it might just have to do with going outside, like
leaving your
ordering comics on whatever digitally is cool if you're like really want to read that comic and you need to find out that story, but like going there and just looking at a wall is so cool, and you see other people, and there's just something, and it doesn't matter if it's comics or if it's records or anything, like any sort of specialty store like that has a community behind it is very cool, and it's always fun to help the brick and mortar stuff. We're lucky as hell in New York City. Like we can't complain.
I'm literally on this podcast right now, and right next to me is about 600 horror Blu-rays, which about 400 of them I've probably bought from Forbidden Planet. So like it's kind of one of those things where like I think that I have the willpower to walk into those stores as an adult and not buy all that shit, but then I'm looking at this going, no, you don't, you fucking idiot. You don't at all. Look at all this. And like I'm super happy with all the stuff that I have as I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I have all these. Like if streaming ever just decides to not be a thing anymore or be like way too expensive for me, I'm gonna be like, dude, I got the hookup. You can all come over to my house. Like
I'll seriously be walking around New York City thinking like, okay, I've been working a lot lately. I'm doing good. Like I'm a responsible adult. And then I'll walk into Forbidden Planet. I'll be like, here, this is how many monies I have. Let me get stuff.
I don't need to pay rent. You can have all of it.
In Toronto, we had a place called Suspect Video that was right by the Beguiling, that was by Honest Ed's. And Suspect Video, I don't know if you guys ever did this pre-internet, but like we had one in my hometown too. But in Toronto, I would go in there and like my goal was like I go in every Saturday, like on my tour of looking at media, and like I would like get 5 horror movies. And like I remember when I moved to Toronto, I started at the A's, and like I just rented fucking everything.
Yeah.
Through the alphabet. Like I was just like, I'm just gonna go through this whole wall. Like I'll go through the whole wall.
I'm gonna take all of it in.
I think that's really smart. I mean, like and this is the last old man thing I'll say for the minute. Is that they will never know what it's like to like go to the video store and just look at the cover and look at the backs and look
about the boxes
and just know about so many boxes. Like I always bring up the stuff because the stuff to me was like the pinnacle of like 80s VHS stuff, and just be able to like walk around and like look at the boxes and look at like the shit that's going on in the back, and you're like, I don't know, it's just there was just something really magical about that.
Kids won't know that if you're riding your bike back to the video store and you accidentally dropped a copy of Jason X and lost it, that you have to pay $100.
That's right.
To cover off the store.
You're like,
I just know that disappointment and anger.
You're like, I know this costs $20. I'll go to the store and buy it for you. They're like, we're losing rentals as we speak. Go fuck yourself. It's Jason X. That's fine.
You know, it's really funny that you brought that thing up, Ryan, where you just go in, you look at the cover, and you're just like, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on that one. I literally did that with a movie that has not even come out yet. Like they've been selling a whole, like they've been doing a whole marketing thing on it where they're doing like a limited edition steelbook of this movie, and just based off of the trailer and the cover and who the star of the movie is, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna buy that. So I had it already pre-ordered. Like I literally have bought this based solely off the cover and a trailer that I'm gonna tell you is mediocre at best. Like it's one of those things, it's because Kane Hodder is the killer. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to fucking support this small company and do that, you know? And it's a movie called Kill Her Goats. Like,
I've heard about that.
Yeah, of course. It's been all over social media. But then when you watch the trailer, it's like he's literally just going to kill a bunch of naked girls. Like that straight up is the only thing that's going to happen in this movie. But the steelbook looks awesome, and he has a double-bladed chainsaw. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking buy that movie. Like,
I like how you said that like it was a bad thing.
right?
It's just gonna kill a bunch of naked girls with a chainsaw. I have
That
made
sounds super 80s.
Right.
I have made
80s as fuck.
I have made a life off of watching movies like that. So I don't know what the problem is. What book? So what books have you worked on, Bob?
What, comics?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, my first book was that Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
God, I've worked for every company except like for a while except Marvel. So at DC I did Swamp Thing.
Cool.
Nice.
And then I had a web comic with them for a while. IDW I did a book called Kill Shakespeare. It was like all the Shakespeare characters like in one story. And I did like, I don't know, 4 trades of that when I first got into comics.
Who wins that war? Who wins that war? It's got Macbeth has to beat like.
Yeah, there's some gnarly stuff in it.
Yeah, I mean,
there was I did Vampirella.
Oh, cool.
I had a
Nice.
I had a big series, my series at Image that was called Southern Cross.
Mm-hmm.
2015 on, and yeah. Southern Cross was basically like The Shining on a haunted like oil tanker that would fly back and forth from Earth to Titan. And it was all like basically space ghosts. And yeah, if you look at most people's top 10 horror comics, like Southern Cross will be in the top 10.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
did you do anything?
Gnarly. It was good stuff. It was.
Did you do anything with Dark Horse?
I've done a few like short story things with Dark Horse, but not much. Heavy Metal Magazine, yeah.
Nice.
I did some stuff with Duncan Trussell and Donnie Cates and Grant Morrison at Heavy Metal Magazine. That stuff was all pretty gnarly. I did one with Duncan Trussell where there's like a big like page spread of Baphomet like giving it to the Virgin Mary.
Nice.
with this giant snake, around them. It's pretty dope.
Perfect.
Yeah, like that was
Duncan.
Sort of like
Duncan fucking rules. He's a good dude.
Yeah, Duncan rules. He was really cool. I moved to Italy for a year because my wife was going to painting school, and one night just randomly I messaged him again, and I was like, we need to do a comic, and he phoned me, and I think he was high, and he was just talking about this comic about black milk and like these crows and stuff that he wanted to do that was like pretty far out. And we never got to it. It was like kind of a bummer we didn't get to it. And then
he could have been on any multitude of psychedelics at that point.
Oh yeah, and probably I was too. And then and then I did a book for TKO called Pound for Pound about like this lady MMA fighter who was taking on like a drug cartel. I've done so many comics, I can't even remember all the comics I've done.
Sure. That's pretty rad.
Those things. I did WWE comics, like when WWE had the Boom had the license for WWE. I did all the backup comics, like the legendary ones. So I had like
nice.
Shit, I think I have some of those.
Yeah, if you look in the backs, I've done a lot of the backup stories with like legendary characters. So I did the backstory to Undertaker and Kane, and in the what is it, the mortuary when they were growing up.
Yeah.
I did the backstory of Kevin and Sammy. So if you like, speaking of wrestling again, like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are from my Fed. So I'm wrestling all the guys that they grew up with.
Yo, they're about to just, and they've deserved it since the moment they stepped onto WWE. They're awesome. But wow, Sammy's just in the middle of something so fucking Sammy special
for the first time, like a few months ago at Battle War.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he's super nice guy, super sweet.
So you've also worked with Stephen Kostansky, I think, with Psycho Gorman.
Yeah, so I'm working on the Psycho Gorman magazine. It's like 100-page, like heavy metal magazine style thing. So I
Ian wrote me and called it Kostansky. Psycho Gilmore, and I was like either this is a whole new cool thing or it's a typo. So I assumed it was a typo. But yeah. Killer Kostansky, we're huge fans. I'm a gigantic Psycho Gorman fan. I think it was
cool. Yeah, so I'm
one of the
comics.
perfect movies. Yeah, that's so rad.
Yeah. We just wrapped all the black and white art for it, so it's just getting colored now. But it's been a crazy project. There was like 35 creators. It's 100
Oh, wow.
pages. Like, I've never had to do this before, but trying to wrangle 35 of your artist friends, and most of them are my friends, is like fucking impossible. I don't think I can ever do this again. And like, it was intense, but the magazine is dope as balls. Like, you're gonna freak out. I'll send you.
Yeah, I want that so bad.
It's
That's
crazy.
so fucking cool.
It's so crazy.
One of the Blu-rays that I took a chance on buying.
Like, what's that?
I was just gonna say one of the Blu-rays I took a chance on buying without seeing the movie was from Astron 6.
Oh,
from all those guys.
Father's Day?
Yeah, it was Father's Day.
Of course it was.
Yeah, it was totally Father's Day, dude. I saw it because it was like it was a limited edition print, and it was like a fucking badass slipcover. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna fucking buy that. And then I bought it. Yet? Yeah, I watched it, and I was I was like, this movie is fucked up.
I think Father's Day is like the most, like, I thought Cannibal Holocaust was one of the most fucked up movies I saw until I saw Father's Day.
Dude.
So Father's Day, what Father's Day is? It's about a supernatural serial killer that goes around and rapes and murders your dad.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, dude. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, dude, like, what kind of shit were they working out? Fuck, man.
It's a trauma movie.
Yeah.
And what's hilarious is Adam Brooks, the guy who's the dad from Psycho Gorman, is the star of Father's Day.
Yeah.
I'm on the phone with him, and he's like, yo, I really want to make a comic book series out of this movie we did called Father's Day. And I was like, okay, send it to me. He sent me the movie, and I was like, this is like, how do I make a comic out of this? This is the most fucked up movie I've ever seen in my life.
It is the grindhouse movie I have ever seen. Like, by far.
So hardcore. They gotta commit suicide to go die so that their spirits can go fight the devil. And then after they win,
I want to see the shit out of it.
Committed suicide.
Yeah, dude. I bought it because there was only it was like a 500 copy limited edition thing, and somebody was selling it on eBay, and like you could tell that they were selling it to be like, get this the fuck out of my collection. Like, I made a mistake.
Believe we're sitting here talking about Father's Day. It's amazing. That's such a small world. Yeah. Like, oh man, Father's Day is on fire. Adam's awesome. Adam Brooks is actually like a really good illustrator.
Nice.
He's amazing.
Is there any of the
draw, man?
Are there any of the current horror comics you'd like to see made into a movie, or
like current? There's my buddy James Tinian has an anthology mag that he started called Razor Blades, and I'm in the first comic and the first story in it, and he did one called Washing Machine that is like feels very Tales from the Crypt, and I think it's some of my best work that I've done. James Tinian is like kind of like the biggest, hottest like writer in comics right now. After Scott Snyder left DC, kind of like James took the reins, and then James was like, I don't even have to do this. I'm just going to make my own horror comics and do my own stuff. And the man's on fire. I love him, but his Razor Blade series is really, really cool. Like, I think you would really dig Razor Blades.
I really enjoyed Joe Hill's Basket Full of Heads. I thought that might be kind of...
I haven't read any Joe Hill stuff, which is weird because like when I was doing my Kill Shakespeare stuff early in my career is when he was doing Lock and Key. So Lock and Key was kind of like coming out with my books. We were like in tandem with IDW. We were kind of like at the same signings and at the same launches and all the rest of that stuff. And it was always like crazy because this guy would show up and everyone would be like, oh, he's mega famous. I'm like, what has he done? And everyone would be like, oh, well, his dad's Stephen King. And I'd be like, holy fuck. Oh my God.
Yeah, like, you got to give him credit for because I think that his dad's Stephen King, and I think that's clearly probably opened some doors for him. But like, he doesn't use the name.
He doesn't do that. No,
he doesn't do that. He does. Yeah. I do kind of like that he uses the same universe. Like he does write in his dad's universe, which I kind of think is cool.
It's pretty neat. Yeah,
it's pretty neat.
I think he's done well on his own. But
check out the Basket Full of Heads. Check out the Basket Full of Heads. I mean, like at the very least, it's a thing with somebody walking around with a bunch of heads in a bag. You know what I mean? Like I personally think that wins a lot. You know what I mean? Like right. You know what I mean? So I read it and I was like, I think he could probably pull this off into a pretty good pretty gnarly movie. So
I think my favorite comic of all time, and I just rewatched the beginning, actually fully watched it, but Preacher is
Yeah, that was a great comic. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought they did such an amazing job with the show and making it basically nothing like the comic, but exactly like the comic, like like
It
the
felt like
ideas and it felt like the comic, but it was like new. There was new stuff and in different places. It was great. But yeah, I think that. Go ahead.
I'm actually a big fan of that. Like in Walking Dead, when everybody would get pissed about like a variant, swaying from the comic, I was like, yeah,
I love that.
It's two different mediums. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
you have to be careful with that. You can't make it the same because it's the same because it's a comic book, and like what's asked of a comic book and what's asked of a movie are two very different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, especially like if you're gonna have people like watching something for 10 years, you're gonna want to like make sure that you know what I mean? Like comic books are meant for most of them anyways, for in and out. You know what I mean? Like if I got to just a trade paperback, it's like I read it and it's just done and I just move on with my day. Where anyways, it's just a different. So
Bob,
I try to write my comics like old school, where like when you read that comic, it's that story, even though it's part of a bigger thing, it's that comic.
Right.
It has a beginning, middle, and end. I think that's part of the reason why the comic store model is kind of like fallen apart, is everyone's trying to write for a movie or a TV show.
Sure.
So like you'll pick up issue 2, 3, 4 and you'll be bored as shit.
Yep.
Because it's like nothing exciting is happening. And the comics that I write, I try to make it that they're all sort of like those X-Men comics, like those Uncanny Claremont X-Men comics. Every time you pick one up, it was its own story.
Yep.
From beginning, middle, and end. Sure, there was like stuff going on, like the flow through, but really you could pick up any one of those issues and like be completely satisfied with the story. I find like that kind of writing is gone today. You have a great issue 1, and then issue 2, 3, you're bored as balls, and then it picks up again in like 5. But by the time 5 happens, the sales are so low on your comic, you're just hoping that the store buys it.
I feel like it's like so fucking true, and it's like I mean, if we want to get into it, I mean, I'll get into it. I hate the way modern comics. I hate that there's 20 different. Like, listen, we had like a couple different universes when I kid. We had Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man. I've always been a Spider-Man comic book reader. I'm a huge Miles Morales fan. I am fine with there being a couple different universes running at once. But like when I walk in there and there's Punk Spider-Man, and it's just like it's all just like, and they're all nothing's numbered more than I think I bought my first Spectacular Spider-Man at like issue 176. Like you just had to like hop in and figure out what the fuck was going on and do it. And I appreciate that maybe this is giving, and maybe as somebody who works in the industry, you appreciate maybe this is giving you more work or not. But I don't. I just kind of feel like when I go into a comic book, there's like store and like I want to buy something. It's like it's too much. It's saturated with too many different stories, too many different things. Everything's like on episode 3 or 4, and it's like, okay, well, I'll get into this. So I got like Mockingjay a couple years ago, and I was like, okay, I'll watch this not Mockingjay, but Mockingbird. And then that just went away overnight. And then I was trying to read Miles Morales, and then they jumped around with that. And then I'm going to complain one more thing. And I'll let you go. One more thing. And then like they'll do like an all-encompassing like comic book like storyline. And like, unless you want to buy all of those, you lose your place. And it was like I was reading Miles Morales, and all of a sudden I would have had to read a Punisher and a Hulk and all this stuff. And I get why they're trying to do that, but it's just like comic books aren't like cheap. You know what I mean? And I can't go buy 40 comic books to fucking follow a story. And B, like I just want to like read a comic book and like enjoy it and just get my subscription box and fucking
that whole event comic thing is such bullshit. Yep. It's such bullshit for the reader. It's always been bullshit. I hate them. Like I've always, from the time I was a kid, I hated them.
Yep.
It was like, even in the X-Men that I'm reading, like my favorite X-Men is Uncanny X-Men 272, Jim Lee and Claremont, but it's part of the Extinction Agenda. So I went and bought the rest of the Extinction Agenda, and it sucked. Like, like every other comic sucked balls. And I was
Right.
like, okay, this is awful. So I'm like, I've always hated that. But
Yeah.
the problem with modern comics that you find in the store right now is the same thing as clickbait.
Right.
You see a headline for something on the internet that's clickbait. That is how they're approaching making their comics now. What kind of clickbait can I use in this thing? And there's no substance behind it. So you get this clickbaity thing that tried to hook you. And then you get in and you're reading 20 pages of talking heads.
Mhm.
And like, you don't care. You don't care because it's not even following like a decent story formula. It's
Yeah.
not exciting. Like, it's because, like, I'm gonna say this straight out. You know, movie like comic books are basically movie and TV's bitches right now.
Right.
Everyone's trying to make everyone who makes and is in the comic book industry, specifically the publishers and the editors and the middlemen. They just want it to be a TV show or a movie. I make comic books so I started my own publishing company in 2019. We make comic books to sell comic books and like fuck movie and TV. Who gives a shit? Like,
Right.
I don't make that stuff. I'm not a filmmaker. So
Right.
I'm not trying to like run around with these like red carpet dreams. Like, fuck that shit. Like, I'm here to make comics for comics. And when you pick it up, I want you to feel like you just like stepped into a store in 1986 and
Right.
you're like, fuck yeah, man. Like, I want to see Wolverine fight Archangel and this shit. I have a fight scene in every one of my comics, like, because I do wrestling comics.
Mhm.
So in 2019, I started a company called Lethal Comics, and which I thought sounded super 90s. Like,
Sure.
I got
Right.
like,
I love it. I love it.
Lethal
got
Records.
yeah, we got merch and stuff, and I have a comic called Mother Trucker that is she's basically like Wonder Woman, like as like a space trucker, and
Awesome.
but the world is wrestling. So if you want my and the contracts are like belts, like wrestling belts. So if I'm shipping and hauling for Walmart in space, and you want my contract, you got to roll up on me in your truck and challenge me to a match. And the back of our rings, like transformers, transform into these crazy, like the back rig transforms into rings, and we go at it. And if you beat me, you get my contract and my truck. Right?
Wow,
So this is the
that's
world of Mother
incredible.
Trucker, but it's kind of set in like early 80s WWE. So all the truckers are like, they all have sort of like archetypes from early wrestling, and that's Mother Trucker. So, there's story involved, but then there'll be a match somewhere in my comic. And at some point she'll take her top off and show her boobs. And like, and it's funny because like, she kind of like, before she became like this hybrid, genetic steroid, like gigantic wrestler, trucker lady. She was involved in an explosion in Houston during Truck Off 3. There's like a nuke that goes off in the ring, and she ends up getting like dead. And the Vince McMahon of the story like rebuilds her. And
this is fucking amazing.
Yeah, so she's like a 90, but she died in the 90s. Like it says like the bomb goes off. They're like in the 90s, right? Like 3090, whatever. But like, she's a 90s girl, so she's like Sable. So she's like,
Oh yeah,
she'll like rip her top off in the ring. You know what I mean? Like, and she's super rude and gross. But like the comic takes place now, so everyone's like super like, what's the word? Conservative, I guess, as far as like sex goes. So every time she takes her top off, like the ref pukes, like the crowd like boos her. They call the cops on her. Like, yeah, like they hate it.
I'm just looking at the pictures of it, and it's just super great.
Yeah. So Mother Trucker is like my baby right now. That's like my main. I'm working on the third one as we speak to kickstart it. We run everything off of Kickstarter. Just because like no publisher will publish my shit because I'm fucking 80s throwback rude as fuck, like kind of like Brian Pulido with his Lady Death. I just wanted to mix my wrestling and my comics and my heavy metal magazine from early 80s.
I love it.
Yeah.
Holy fucking shit, Bob! Are you a really good artist, by the way?
Yeah.
I mean, like it's very good. So, it's like-
Real quick, Bob,
thanks.
I had to show you this while we were actually still on there, but there's the fucking Blu-ray. Father's Day, baby.
Father's Day.
Dude, if any of you haven't seen Father's Day,
Dude,
you have to watch Father's Day, but like I also apologize in
Yeah,
advance. You're in for a hard watch. Like some fucking shit goes down in that movie.
it's one of
That's
the coolest
a Kostansky movie.
dude, it's one of the coolest
Yeah.
covers ever too. Like the actual cover of the fucking
Yeah.
the slipcase
Yeah.
is so fucking cool.
It's so
yeah.
crazy. Like with the Psycho Gorman magazine I had all the extras printed. So I've like my whole studio is just full of Psycho Gorman merch that we haven't like is ready to go out. So I have like, remember on the back of like cereal boxes, you could get like masks and you would like cut them
you
out.
cut them out. Yeah.
So I have like Psycho Gorman masks that come with the magazine,
Amazing.
like cardboard masks. We got like stickers and magnets and pins and posters and
so
flag.
stoked
We
for
got like heavy metal flags. Like
So,
I got one up.
so
on my
that
studio.
movie
It's
was
super
such
dope.
a perfect like injection of 80s
Yeah.
ridiculousness, and
Just
it
fun.
just hit every fucking
super fun.
spot for
Super
me.
fun.
Yeah.
super fun.
So
Yeah.
Real quick,
You
real
think you-
quick.
go.
Real quick. I usually wouldn't do this. Like, I usually wouldn't do this, but this is something that both Graham and you, Bob, will get a kick out of. I just confirmed a guest for a later show. It's Larry Legend. The
Oh, yeah.
fucking, the fucking announcer, dude.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Ryan,
yeah,
crap.
dude, Ryan, you're gonna fucking love Larry. You are going to love Larry. Yeah, I didn't even know that Larry was a horror fan, and it turns out he's a horror fan, and he absolutely wants to do the show later. He's
Sweet.
fucking dude. He fucking rules.
Well, Andy, Bob, are you ready for the Sinister Six?
Yeah, all right. Let's give her.
All right, the first one, and like I said, explain if you want, or you don't have to. I feel like we'll get some explanations.
We're very judgmental about the answers. Not at all.
So, first one, Freddy or Jason?
Fuck, man. Oh, I have to say Jason, but it's hard. Like if you had said like, if you had said Jason and Michael Myers, I'd be like Jason. If you said Freddy and Michael Myers, I would have said Freddy, right? And I have to say, like Freddy versus Jason, also one of my favorite movies. Watching those two fight, like when Freddy gets pulled out of the dream and he fucking turns around, he's shitting himself because there's Jason. I was like I popped for that in the theater, like literally, like fuck you, yeah.
Anybody
That's
into
awesome.
wrestling loves that movie because they had a
Yeah, I
straight up
think-
fucking WWE fight. Like he
Yeah.
did like a
Yeah.
straight up
Yeah.
Macho Man elbow onto fucking Jason from the top of a truck. So
So
I love
good.
when he grabbed that one like nerdy kid who's trying to like get with that chick and throws him onto the spike on the wall. Like
yeah, just fucking throws him right over there.
So dope. I just love that movie. That movie's and the girl who was American Mary is in it.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. American
Yeah,
Mary
she's
was
like
super good.
dope and takes her top off in it. Like God bless. Good movie. I have
it's,
to
Catherine
say
Isabel.
Jason just because Jason has been paying my bills over the years.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I love
I
Freddy.
hear you.
Got to keep it in the family.
I like
All
the
right.
Jason movies better too. I'm like
I-
pretty diehard about 1 through 4. Like I love the shit out of them. So I've had this talk with Kostansky, and those guys are like all about like 6, 7, 8.
Really? Because I'm all
Yeah.
about 8. 8
Yeah,
is
yeah,
my
and
favorite,
8, yeah.
actually.
They're all about that. They're all about that. 'Cause
Okay,
Okay,
I'll-
that's
like,
interesting.
It's all
Besides-
about Crispin Glover's dance. Like I'm like just watching Crispin Glover dance in part 4 and Corey Feldman. I'm like, that movie is so screwed up.
So,
It's so good.
I think 4 is the best of all of
Yeah.
the movies.
Technically, I think it's the best movie.
That being said, though, I understand why they're at 6, 7, and 8. I think that it's just because, like, I think like that's where it gets like 7 is very, besides the like the hacky MPAA chop job on the things. If they had the original like cut of that, I think 7 would probably be the best of them all.
Is 7
You know
the
what I-
psychic one? Is that the one with the psychic?
It's,
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
it's basically Jason versus Carrie. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so like it's yeah, I don't know. I fuck with the. I've always said that Carrie is actually an X-Men backstory.
Totally.
It kind of
yeah.
is.
Totally.
Yeah,
That's Phoenix right there, man.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
It's just like
Yeah.
I just have this power, and I don't know. Both Firestarter and Carrie are both like
Yeah.
these are superheroes. They're rad.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And fuck those people for not being nice. But anyways, but yeah. So I go ahead.
All right, next one. What's the difference between thriller and horror?
Ugh, I don't know. Thriller gets Oscars and shit.
that's a good answer. Yeah, we've had people say like they're called thrillers when they want to win awards.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think there's like. I think for the most part, a thriller is more like a thinking person's horror. You know, there'll be, there'll be a court case, or like
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of detectives. Like Seven has like a lot of great horror moments, but it's definitely like a thriller. I don't know. I think they can just they're like married. They're like best friends.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes me think though, maybe thriller is where cops are the heroes and horror is where they're just dumb as fuck.
That's good.
I feel like horror. I feel like horror. You're
right.
rooting for the
If
bad
you could,
guy.
no.
yeah, sure.
What horror movie influenced your taste the most?
Oh, okay. So, in my top 5 favorite films of all time, this hasn't changed since I was like 16. My favorite all-time movie ever made is The Shining. It affected me the most. It influenced me the most. I steal from it the most. I'm just like obsessed with that fucking movie. I'm just obsessed with it. I love the fucking music, and I love Kubrick, and I just think that movie is the shit. But my close second is The Thing.
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
A close second is The Thing, and then of course it's Blade Runner, Road Warrior, and Conan, and that's the top 5.
Right.
Best
I think my
movies ever.
favorite movie outside of horror, because it's just horror as far, but my favorite movie of all time is probably Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, so
'Cause
for
it's
me,
just-
it's like Mad Max Fury Road and Road Warrior kind of tied. I went to
Okay.
Fury Road. I went to Fury Road 10 times in a theater.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it blows everything out of the water as far as
That
I'm
movie,
concerned.
first time I saw it again, I was jumping up
Gorgeous.
in the theater.
100%.
I just
I feel
remember
like that movie kind of fucks with horror too. They
Yeah,
feel
sure.
like horror movie characters. Yeah.
Some of the faces in that shit.
I feel like I remember watching it and like halfway through it going, wait, this is why I like movies. Like this is actually like what I like in movies.
I literally did the same thing.
You know what's funny is about the Road Warrior is that it is not called the Road Warrior anymore. It is called Mad Max 2, the Road Warrior.
Yeah, it's called Mad Max 2 now. Yeah.
Yeah, which is I don't know why they did that, but like I went to go look for the Road Warrior and it just kept coming up as Mad Max 2. And that was kind of like bugging me, but like I used to own the VHS of it and it was just called the fucking Road Warrior. But
Yeah.
I used to get the patch in my head dyed just like him in that movie.
Yeah, so I mean, my all-time favorite tag team of all time is the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, and they modeled that shit off of Wes from that movie.
Right.
So
love it.
Yeah, no, I realize that The Shining is kind of like a typical one, but it's been with me forever, man. Just fucking
it's
love
heavy. It sticks with people too, like it's considered legendary for a reason. Like
I think the twin girls are the first thing that ever like truly like scared me in a movie, like properly scared me.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that's affected like a lot of different things, and it's funny because I think Zelda from Pet Sematary.
Oh my god, that movie really fucked me up too as a kid.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Zelda.
Exactly. Yeah, Zelda's fucked
I hate
up.
that you even brought it up.
I know.
The Achilles heel cut too.
But I have sent him because it was played by a male actor. I have sent him, and he's part of like some like local troupe, like acting troupe, and I have sent him a message every single way I possibly could.
Who?
The actor who played Zelda.
And, the dude,
yeah, and never been able to get him back. It was like to be able to like sit down and just like talk to him about like what he brought to that character, and I just wonder if he knows.
Was that his voice?
Yeah, it's him. I just wonder if he knows how
much damage he's done.
How much like literally like it's awesome, but like because it's every like I'm like we're big tough dudes and we're all like fuck Zelda, dude. Like I want nothing to do with that, you know. And
I'm out the first. I'm pulling. Speaking of Friday the 13th Part 4, when the dog just is like fuck this and jumps out the window and he's like I'm out. I'm jumping out the window. That's me for Zelda. Also, Salem's Lot. The kid that comes to the window.
Yep.
So when I was this is really funny. When I was a kid, I had a reoccurring nightmare all the time, all through my teens, of that kid coming to the window. And it was when I moved to Toronto and did the A to Z through the horror movies, and I got to Salem's Lot, like the TV show, and rented it, and that part came on, and I was like, holy fuck, I saw that show when I was probably like 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it like as a little kid, like 2 or 3, and it fucked me up so much. I dreamt about it like almost my whole life. And here I am sitting here at like, 23 being like, oh shit, that's where it came from.
That's why I'm fucked up. Right.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, totally.
All right. If you could erase one movie from existence, what would it be? It doesn't have to be horror. And this is our most passed on question.
So many, but it's a tie between Justice League and Suicide Squad. Like, fucking erase those movies.
They're both pretty fucking terrible.
Even the Snyder Cut.
Yeah. it's just fucking amateur hour.
Yeah,
everything is just garbage. Like, especially the Suicide Squad movie is just maybe the worst put together film on every level: writing, acting, editing, sound, music choices.
David S. Ayer one or
the
first one, because I thought the second one was pretty good.
The James Gunn one was fun.
Oh no, the James Gunn one's great. The dude with the spots is the funniest shit.
He's fucking amazing.
He's his mom everywhere. Like, that's amazing.
I also got mad at Suicide Squad because the special effects beat out that Star Trek movie, which I'm a special effects geek, and like that Star Trek movie, it was amazing and so gorgeous done. And they gave it to him because the lizard guy. It's like a dude in a mask. Like, I mean, I think like, do you know how easy it is to like? I'm not gonna say it's easy to put a guy in a cool mask. I get it. Like, a lot went into that, but there's just nothing. But you can't compare it to like the faces on like people that when it's been sculpted onto them and it works with their faces and it works with. I mean, you just can't compare the two things. You know what I mean?
Like, I gotta say, like, I'm pretty burnt out. Even as a comic guy, I'm pretty burnt out on superhero movies,
right? And
Star Wars. Like, I'm burnt, and sometimes I get surprised. Like, I was actually surprised I liked the new Batman movie.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And I thought it was very good. Yeah.
I was actually surprised.
It barely felt like a comic movie.
Yeah, no, it didn't. And I was kind of like, this is actually pretty good. Same with the Joker one. I was like, this is a fucking cool movie. My problem with most of the superhero movies is just like horribly put together. Yeah. Like, they're just, like I watched Wakanda Forever the other day and fell asleep twice. And I was like, this is a really poorly put together movie.
There were a couple like cool moments and some cool things in that movie, but like it was kind of a slog.
It was a mess. Like, and
super melodramatic.
What made me mad was the design. Like the new Iron Man is just Metroid, and then the Wakandan like super elite force were just blue predators, right? Like, they just look like predators. And then I know this is from the comics, but all the dudes who are hanging out with Namor were basically like Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, this feels like a corporate mess where a bunch of corporate dudes on cocaine were like, let's just make that one. They look like predators. And Avatar's coming out. Let's throw some Avatar in there. And it's like, and like, well, what else? What else already works? And you're just like, oh god.
And it's too bad because there are some real gems in there. Like, I mean, I think Winter Soldier is like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think Winter Soldier did a fucking great job.
I think Logan was great. I think
Logan was incredible.
Yeah, I thought, and I actually thought the first, I thought the first Black Panther was fucking really great. And
first Black Panther was great too. I like Thor Ragnarok too.
Thor Ragnarok.
I loved Love and Thunder too.
Well, anything. I mean, let's be real. Taika Waititi is the guy making
some of the best movies.
Some of the best. Anything like he's like, I'm just gonna go touch this, and you guys, it's just gonna be that much cooler.
What We Do in the Shadows is like my favorite comedy.
One of the greatest. Yeah. One of the greatest, and one of the greatest shows too. Like,
it's amazing. Unbeatable. Show. I fucking love it. Yeah.
You know how many? I just wanted to say this really quick about Thor: Love and Thunder. Do you know how many people I had to tell? Like, I had like people that were shitting on that movie. I was like, do you guys not fucking realize that entire movie was told by the POV of a fucking child? Like, a child golem was the one telling you about them. Like, he was the narrator. Like, that's why there were screaming goats.
Right.
Like, what the fuck do you think this movie was? And I was like, it was actually kind of brilliant. Like, because all the shit that really happened was much darker, but a child was telling you about it.
My wife and I don't get to go on dates much. We have a kid and whatever, and we're both like, I'm busy. Like, I run a publishing company. I make my own comics. I'm a wrestler, trying to be, a husband and a father. So it's like busy. And we went on a date night and we went to Thor: Love and Thunder, and I had this like really old bag of shrooms. These probably aren't going to work, right? So, but who knows, right? So we come in to the movie, and she was out getting popcorn, and as we got in, I was like eating them and gave a bunch to her, and little did I know they were still quite amazingly potent. So that whole movie, I would say, like it hit me in 15 minutes, right? And it was the movie starting because you watch all the previews and the trailers, and she's out getting popcorn, right? And immediately, like, it's into she, like, we're both starting to feel it. So she was like, I better get us food, and I was like, yeah, good call. And it starts into that part where his daughter dies. And I was just like, here I am, like, on date night. My kid is like with a babysitter, and it's his daughter. I have a daughter, and she's like dying of starvation. I was like, fucking, I can't handle this movie. Too much for me. So, like, I think I gotta leave. Like, I think we got, like, Sylvia, we gotta go. Like, dude, she just fucking died. And now he's like, with the corpse. I can't handle this shit. And then it gets goofy as fuck, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna chill. Like, so the colors were really nice in that movie.
I feel like by the time they got to the part with Zeus, and they were just pointing out the random gods, where they were just like, that's Bao, that's the god of dumplings. Like, how the fuck can you see that part and think anything about the movie is serious? Come on.
Yeah, no, it's anyone who's looking. Also, anyone who's looking for like serious Thor, I'm like, why?
Dude, it's
also why? It's gonna be boring if he's serious.
This is not Batman. This is
not
Batman.
No.
Right? It was never Batman. And in fact, when they tried to be serious, the movie sucked, like Thor 2. Right? Like,
dog shit.
Yeah.
It was
dog
like
shit.
That was it's
the Dark Tower, or what it was. Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch Batman Brave and the Bold, the cartoon, right after the animated series? Remember Aquaman? Aquaman was basically like the guy from Married with Children. The dad from Married with Children, who's always going on about his football stories. Yeah, Al Bundy. Yeah. He was always going off about his football stories. I thought it was hilarious that they wrote Aquaman like Al Bundy, where he's just always talking about his old adventures, and he sucks, and no one wants to listen to his shit. Like, that's kind of what they did with Thor. And I was like, yeah, this makes total sense. He's like Iron Man from Brave and the Bold, or he's like Al Bundy. Like, this is the character I want for this. Like, it's. And I mean, I like Ragnarok better than Thor: Love and Thunder, but Thor: Love and Thunder had some funny shit. Like, it had some good stuff.
For sure. I don't know. I go back and forth, but like there's nothing that really beats the buddy comedy of Thor and Talking Hulk. Like
No.
that shit was really fun.
So good. So good. And
all
very
right.
Kirby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are ghosts real?
Okay. I would tell you that I don't fucking believe in ghosts, but I've seen a ghost. So
Okay.
I get it.
when I'm done Mother Trucker, I'm writing a story called Sugar Mountain about this mountain that has like, sugar shacks and shit on it. And when I was a kid, when my parents were split up, I was probably about 10. I got sent to this summer camp, and the last week you slept over every night, and they had this game called Predator and Prey. It's a version of tag and hide and seek where like all the kids are like rabbits and squirrels and shit, and all the counselors are like hawks and wolves and bears. And we played it as the sun was going down, so it was nighttime, and it was on this hill, and there was a forest, and the cabins were in the bottom on the clearing, and then there was a fence at the top of the hill, and on the other side was like basically a chunk of forest that belonged to the farm, and they were tapping all the trees for sap for maple syrup, and there was a shack in there that had been burnt. It was like black walls, and they were basically like, don't go in that shack, like do not climb the fence, do not go in there, it's private property, you'll get charged, definitely don't go into the thing. And we're all like, why? And one of the counselors that was like the cool one was like, yeah, like apparently the story is like the dude who was running the farm was making maple syrup, and he had like some sort of like stroke or heart attack and fell into the boiling vat of maple syrup.
Damn.
So we're kids, we're like, yeah, whatever, fuck.
So he's like Tim Burton's Canadian Joker.
Exactly. So then, of course, it starts to get dark, and what do we want to do? We want to jump the fence, go into the sugar shack.
You were told not to.
Yeah, and throw rocks through the windows.
Of course.
So that's what we did. And I remember we were throwing rocks through the windows, and my buddies were like we were kind of like done with it, and we thought we were going to get in trouble. And my buddies were at the doorway of it, and I was like inside, and like the cauldron thing was sitting there kind of like on one side. And I remember them turning around and like looking at me being fucking scared shitless. And I turned around and I just saw like the outline of like a green silhouette of a dude. And kind of like the Predator. Remember the Predator would kind of like, he would look like kind of like I don't think he was green, but like you could see his outline.
It was like a wave. It was
and his
like
eyes
gas
were green.
wave. Yeah.
It was like, it looked like a green glowing like silhouette. There was no definition. It was just the shape. And like it was cold, and I literally like fucking bolted. Like ran, and they were running with us. We all hopped over the fence, ran right to our cabin, and like sat in the cabin. And we were like, did you fucking see that? Yeah, I saw that. Did you see that? And it was a camp called Camp Kipperop. And I don't know what the fuck it was. Is it like a fucking projector that they fucking, was there someone back there doing something like that? I don't know. But I saw
Sounds
that
a little
shit.
fucking ghosty to me.
But I fucking saw that shit. And
that's pretty fun, actually.
And I'm writing a story about it. But
nice.
I was like, started the story, started writing it when I was in Italy, and we had a few friends over, and we were like on the internet looking up Camp Kipperop, and we couldn't find anything except one article that said like one of the counselors at that place, when it got shut down, lost both their arms.
Wow.
And I was like, fucked up. And that's the only article I could find on this Camp Kipperop thing. It was really twisted. So, good fodder for writing horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be rad.
So I would say my answer is I would say no, but I saw that shit.
All right.
Yeah. All right, last one. Midsummer or Hereditary?
Oh, come on. Hereditary for sure. Come on.
Okay, yeah.
Come on. Hereditary is probably like before that I would have what is it? Oh, why am I blanking on it? The Spelunking movie.
Oh, the
Descent.
Yeah.
The Descent and Hereditary are probably like the best horror movies that have been made in the last 20 years.
I mean, I think that
there's more. There's of course more.
No, totally. I mean,
there's of course more, but like I remember seeing The Descent thinking this is one of the best horror movies I've seen since the shit that I loved in the 80s.
Right.
Where I was legit like, this is fucking scary. And Hereditary was also a movie where I was like, holy fuck, this movie is legit scary as shit. Midsummer, I didn't think was scary. And for a lot of it, I thought those kids were dumb. But I always think someone's dumb when they go to like a cult. You know what I mean? Like in a cult movie, I'm always like, I would Rambo that shit. Like, Rambo that shit. Like, oh, you better all come and gather in here. I'm going to shiv everyone that gets 6 feet from me. After I saw like a dude's leg hanging out of the ground, everyone dies until I'm fucking out of here. Like, self-preservation, man. Like, yeah, no.
See the old people jump off the cliff and you're just like, I'm stabbing everybody.
No, yeah. I'd be like walking away slowly.
Yeah.
Knife. Like, I'd be sleeping with knives like under my, like I'd be set. Like, I'd be getting out. Yeah, as soon as that guy jumped off the cliff, I'm like, okay, no.
I'm a little different. Seeing boomers jump off cliffs might be kind of exciting for me. You know what I mean? Like I might be like,
you waste the leader, and then you become leader. So
I'd be like, yeah, I get it. That's what I'd say. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, sure. Like, I mean, like,
I could just see you looking at that and like just all of a sudden dealing with the rest of the stuff. Be like, listen, all right, the cooking's not great. There was some period in my drink. That's fine. Like, listen,
right.
But like,
hey,
I can get over that.
But culturally speaking, like, I'm cool. I'm down with shit. Like, you want me to throw some old people off this fucking cliff?
Yeah, those two were probably racist. Like
they probably were. They probably struggled with pronouns. You know what I mean? Like so, like we're good. You know what I mean?
We don't need them. It's
so my wife's mom is like a college professor, and she spent most of her life studying cults. So she's one of the foremost cult professors in the world.
Oh, that's cool.
Written many books. She's out there, man. Like, but she loves them. She thinks it's like beautiful. And like, I'm like, here's the thing with cults. You know, you're going to get drugged. And there's always one dude trying to fuck your wife. Like, there's always that one dude at the top trying to fuck everyone's wife. That's the problem with a cult. So, I mean, if it starts getting culty, waste that dude at the top and supplant him or
yeah.
And don't get your family involved.
Right.
And like as soon as somebody's like, why'd you stab that guy? Because like he was gonna fuck all of your wives. That's why. Like we had to get rid of him.
He was gonna steal your money and fuck your wife.
Yeah. We had to get rid of him. Sorry.
Yeah. You gotta all end like that. It all ends like that. It's all gonna end in tears.
Yep.
Well, those are excellent answers.
Fuck yeah, they are.
I think yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah,
well, cool, man.
Hereditary is freaking crazy.
Totally.
Oh, when her head hits that pole. Oh,
yeah.
That like
the first time I saw that movie, I don't remember anything after that scene. I was so shook I couldn't get my bearings back, and then I rewatched it. I was like, oh yeah, this is fucking incredible. But I didn't remember anything after that.
Yeah, isn't there like a really great scene where Gabriel Byrne like burns to death?
Yep.
That's exactly.
Burn burns.
Burn burns.
And then Toni Collette does what Toni Collette does and acts her fucking ass off right in front of him while he's burning. It's like
screaming.
Yeah.
I need to watch that movie again.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it. All right.
Yeah.
What are we
yeah, man, like the other thing that's the 6. I would love to, we got a Kickstarter running right now from my buddy Al Gofa, who has a book called Pork Gym.
Called
And
what?
Orc Gym is basically like
Orc Gym.
Arnold's pumping iron with orcs.
Okay.
So
Sounds
check
so
it.
rad.
Yeah, check it out. It's pretty funky. It's really wild. I did like my best Joe Jusko cover I could for him. Remember Joe Jusko back then? We did all the Marvel swimsuits. Like
Yeah,
I was
totally.
trying to do my
Yes.
best like Joe Jusko Marvel swimsuit orc green bodybuilder guys.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Fuck yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
so stoked for all that stuff and the Psycho Gorman and stuff and everything.
Yeah, Psycho Gorman, Mother Trucker. I'm about to launch Mother Trucker 3 sometime in March
Cool.
on Kickstarter,
Cool.
and I'm doing 3 of them this year. I'm gonna do Mother Truckers 3, 4, and 5 this year, 6 next year, and then a trade. That's the
Awesome.
plan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
get into those.
Yeah.
So
you got
Ryan,
any-
I was going to say, do we want to do some recommendations on this? And
Yeah, real quick. I'll recommend Attachment. It's on Shudder. It's a really good fucking movie.
It really is.
It's really just a good movie. The horror aspect of it might be mellow for some. For me, I thought it was perfect and good. I think it's a great possession-ish movie. And then I watched something today called Slapface, and like I'm like a little 50-50 on some of it. But have you seen Slapface?
I have.
I
What is
have.
Slapface? Is it on Shutter?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a little bit of a folk horror sort of thing. It's what did you guys think of it? I liked it. I'm
It's
glad I
fun.
watched it.
It was
I
fun.
liked it a lot. Molly loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was solid.
Yeah, so see Slapface.
Slapface was good.
That's it. All right, Jonas.
So I kind of actually, now that I think about it, both of mine might fall under Graham's, so I apologize if they do. But the first one is Piggy. Piggy is incredible.
Good.
Well, this isn't the Winnie the Pooh one, is it?
No.
No.
Piggy is a new movie out on Hulu. It's a Spanish horror film. It's fucking incredible, and it has, like, I think Graham put it best when he said it put 2023 on notice already. Like, it is
It is
phenomenal.
one of the most beautiful and intense and emotional and surprising and just incredibly well done movies I've seen in a long time. And it
Did you
hit
guys
so
watch
many.
Skinamarink?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I saw Skinamarink and I fucking hated that one. But
I liked it.
yeah, I hated the
seen
shit
it
out of that movie.
I hate it and like it.
Yeah. I respected Skinamarink, but boy, did I hate it. So that is definitely not one of my recommendations. But Piggy is incredible. Also, me and Graham did a review of the new Distant album, and it's fully out now, and it's amazing. If you haven't listened to it, you should. And also, my recommendation on that is to listen to it with really good headphones. Because it is a fucking brutal album. And the
So like
last
58 singers on that one song or something.
right, yeah, it is just a bukkake of metal singers on that one. And then the other one that I am gonna recommend actually is what Bob just said, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. It just came out in theaters, and it's gonna be in theaters at least for a week, if not longer. And I'm just loving this whole thing with indie horror films. I don't even care if they suck. I'm just happy that indie horror films are getting theater runs right now.
Yeah.
And this movie was made on a budget of like $100,000, and fuck yeah. Like, make
that's
Winnie
pretty
the Pooh
good.
make Winnie the Pooh and Piglet into psychopathic murderers. I'm fucking into it. So
Super into it.
yeah, so that just dropped in theaters literally today. So it's going to be there for at least a week.
All right, my turn.
Yep.
All right. I didn't talk about this last year, but somebody talked about it on the internet today and said it sucked. So I'm going to explain why it didn't. But We're All Going to the World's Fair. It was a very strange movie that came out last year about, and it's just basically a young girl sitting in front of the computer doing this challenge, like one of those like weird online challenges, and then just sort of like how that goes. And it's very fucking weird. But I saw it as a very unsettling work involving legitimate fear of isolation and dysphoria, and touching ideas of like the creepypasta being a product of kids' imaginations, but as the internet like seeps into their psyche and they become more susceptible to danger or to outside influences from an unidentified source, they go from synthesized fear to actual real danger. Sort of like the Slender Man movie or the thing, like actually got a girl killed and stuff. And this movie sits in between that spot where like kids are just playing on the internet to the actual danger. And it just lives in that space in between, and how the psyche can like get drawn in. And it's so fucking well done and so differently well like made. It's kind of in Skinamarink sort of, not same style, but that sort of experimental thing. And it's fucking great. So go see that or see it. I think it's on HBO. It rules. We're all going to the World's Fair. And music, Screaming Females. They just released, they're about to release a new album. There's Brass Bell, I think it's called, is the single. It's fucking incredible. And if you want to get into Screaming Females, I'd go with Rose Mountain. Marissa Paternoster is my favorite singer guitarist of all time. And that's not like singer songwriter, and it's not like lead person, but she is my favorite singer / guitarist, if that makes sense. And she's just my flat out favorite guitarist alive. So Screaming Females.
Fuck yeah.
Is it my turn?
It is yours.
Yep.
It is on you, Bob.
As far as Shudder goes, I really like. I'm gonna go back a bit. I haven't watched too much on here, but I mean, I've watched everything on here, but like, I haven't watched Shudder that much lately. But one of the movies, I fell in love with that girl that's in Dogs Don't Wear Pants. Have you guys watched this movie yet?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, she's so hot, and she's like, that movie is so awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really, really cool. My wife had to get a few tries because like it starts off with his wife drowning, so I had to be like, no, get past it. You need to get to the part with like the dominatrix. That's when it like cooks.
You're like, no, it gets better.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm into asphyxiation, but like, watch the whole movie. And the music's really like cool, and it has like it's not necessarily a horror movie, but it has like a good feel. And then right around the Psycho Gorman time, there was this movie that came out called Fried Berry.
Yeah. We had
Fried Berry is the shit.
We had
and
Ryan
the
Kruger,
director, the director and I had a meeting about doing comics for Fried Berry.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're big Ryan Kruger fans on here.
Fried Berry was like really dope on here. Cool. I really, really dug it.
One of our favorites, actually. Like it was so out of the blue. Came from South Africa, and all of a sudden, like, it's just the most insane thing I've ever seen. Like, aliens take over a junkie's body in Cape Town and take it on a sex drug joyride. Like, what the fuck?
So
right.
Like, that's not a movie, but it's exactly the movie I want to see. Right. I don't even care if it's a movie. I just want to see what that is. And he fucking nailed it. That dude is great. Yeah, he actually made fun of me for recommending marble racing.
He did. He gave you a massive amount of shit for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and music shit. I'm getting weird with my music, like comics. I'm just going back. I can't. Like, I watched this documentary a few weeks ago. Called, it's an old one. Called Thrasher, all about early speed metal. And I'm like super hooked on Exodus right now. I can't stop listening to Exodus.
Exodus is great.
Yeah, I'm really into Exodus right now. I don't see. I need to hang out with you guys more to tell me about new music and new metal, because I don't have enough of that in my life right now. And you get those moments where like your iPhone has like 8 million songs on it, but you feel like shit is stale. Like,
right, I get it.
I'm right there right now. Like, I'm feeling like
you can hit shit. Me and Ian. All we do is trade new music like every day. I'm up at Friday 1 a.m. sending him new records. Like,
oh, right on.
So hit me up. I'll send you stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm in a super stale sort of feeling lately, where because I have a Here, you can see him. Look at this guy. That's my
Oh,
yeah.
cutie.
that's my Bronco. He's a
Hell yeah.
Bronco's a big white shepherd. Big husky German shepherd mix. I wanted the dog from Lost Boys.
Nice.
I wanted Nanook from Lost Boys, and like I saw a photo of this dog, and I was like, I gotta have him. And so I walk the dog a lot, and listen to metal. So I'm kind of like
Awesome.
That's perfect.
We have plenty
I'm
of metal
feeling-
that we can give you.
I'm feeling
Yeah.
stale at the moment as far as like metal
We got
goes.
you.
I will tell you this: if you want to watch a really good metal documentary, watch Murder in the Front Row. If you haven't seen it,
Ooh, that sounds cool.
That's
Yeah,
a very good one.
I gotta
it's a
write
really
that
good,
down.
really good metal
And the
documentary.
Cannibal Corpse documentary is one of my favorites. It's on YouTube. It's like 4 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
sounds
it's
awesome.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
The Lemmy documentary is one of my favorite things ever. I watch it every few months. The
The
Lemmy
Andre the
doc-
Giant. The Andre the Giant one actually is a big one for me.
that Andre the Giant one, the first time I saw it, totally made me cry.
Yeah.
That part where Hulk Hogan's talking about them being in an airport and Andre's walking like 6 feet in front of him, and people are just trashing him and making fun of him for being
Yeah.
big and like weird looking. And
Yeah.
like I think Hogan starts crying and starts talking about like he almost cried when it was happening because it was like they were treating him like a circus freak, and it was
Yeah.
like that's fucking awful.
Yeah.
Fucking people.
Mhm.
Fucking people.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Oh,
joining-
hey, this
Yeah,
is
this has
awesome,
been
man.
awesome. Yeah.
it's
This
been
is super
great.
cool.
Yeah, thank you for all you do, and when you when you release something, let us know, and we'll throw it on our socials. And
Sure.
everybody go look up Mother Trucker and Psycho Gorman. There's a pre-order on a website. It looks really cool. The art is incredible. And thanks to everybody listening worldwide. We're actually doing we're pretty good there. We've had a really good run the last few episodes, and so thank you so much for tuning in. We've really enjoyed all our guests. Let's see, in the global thing, it is United States, United Kingdom, still holding on strong. And out of everybody in the United Kingdom, that would be England number 1. England belongs to me. Manchester City won today, so I'm happy about that. Let's see. Then New Zealand still ahead of Australia, Germany, and Sweden neck and neck. Turks and Caicos Islands still hanging in there. Mexico, Netherlands, France, Puerto Rico, Taiwan, Brazil, Switzerland, and India, and the Czech Republic, all rounding the top of them off. That is unfreaking.
Wait, where's
believable.
Canada?
I told you it was in 3. It was 3.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry, I missed.
Canada.
That's good. I love Canada.
I know you do. I know
I
you
know. I've only been once. It's like my favorite place in the world.
Oh my god.
do. We have.
I went to Montreal to see a Bouncing Souls and Hot Water music show. Spent one night there, and it was the greatest night of my life.
Did you go to Foops?
No, it was Club Soda. And then-
Club Soda
yeah.
is the shit. I wrestle there. But we have a legit like Wayne's World. What was it called? The Wetworks or something from Wayne's World? What was the name of the metal club in Wayne's World? It was called the Gasworks.
Yeah.
We legit have a Gasworks in Montreal still called like it's called Fufon Electrique. And it is like a
cool.
gigantic heavy metal warehouse.
Oh,
bar.
rad.
And it rocks. Unfortunately, the
Awesome.
beers have finally got expensive there, but for years they were like $3. And you were like, God bless this place.
Right.
I can still listen to metal. Like they don't really have metal bars in Toronto. I can only think of the Bovine, and it's small.
Right.
But you go to Montreal, and it was like, when I moved to Montreal, it was full of metalheads. So it made me happy. I was like, finally, my people.
Awesome.
We do have a Patreon. Please go check it out. What is the Army of the Goddamn, Graham?
The Army of the Goddamn. We got Jason Daniels, Jake Jolly, Ron Canabla, Kristen Pearl, Manny Velazquez, Coleman Rosenberg, Drew Muldowney, Stephanie Gurley, Katie Viking, Chris Fortune, Alan Graham, Bacon Bits the Cat, and Angela.
So rad. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and come on back and join us again next time. We'll have more amazing guests and more things. And if you ever want to reach out to our socials, we'll probably respond because we're cool like that. And until we see you next time, will you please go start some fires and break some glass? Thank you.